Bashar Al Assad, from quiet doctor to controversial leader. Born on September 11, 1965, Bashar was the second son of Hafez al-Assad, the strongman ruler of Syria. After studying medicine in Damascus, Bashar traveled to London to specialize in ophthalmology, while his father built his iron-fisted regime back home. But then came 1994, a year that changed everything to Bashar's elder brother, Bassel al-Assad, the charismatic heir to the Assad dynasty, died tragically in a car crash. The spotlight turned to the quiet doctor. Bashar, once living a life of anonymity, was abruptly summoned home to be groomed as Syria's next leader. When Hafez al-Assad passed away in 2000, Bashar al-Assad, just 34 years old, stepped into power. Here was a young, Western-educated leader, an eye doctor who could see clearly, they thought, the problems of a nation craving reform. In his early years, Bashar introduced small changes. The internet trickled into Syria. Private businesses began to sprout. People dared to hope for a Damascus Spring of openness and progress. But the hopes were short-lived. Bashar inherited not only his father's throne, but also his ruthless political system. When the 2011 Arab Spring erupted across the Middle East, demanding democracy and freedom, protests soon ignited in Syria too. The government's response? A crackdown brutal, swift, and unforgiving. What began as protests spiraled into one of the bloodiest civil wars in modern history. As Syria descended into chaos, Bashar clung to power with unwavering resolve. He had allies, powerful ones. Russia and Iran propped up his regime, helping him weather sanctions, international pressure, and insurgencies. Meanwhile, his opponents, rebel groups, extremists like ISIS, and Western nations, fought to challenge him. Cities like Aleppo, Homs, and Raqqa became symbols of devastation. Millions of Syrians fled the country, creating one of the worst refugee crises in history. Despite global condemnation and calls for his removal, Bashar al-Assad held firm, like his father before him. Today, Bashar al-Assad remains one of the most polarizing figures in modern geopolitics. To some, he is a tyrant who crushed his people. To others, he is a survivor who preserved Syria's sovereignty in a web of global interests. From a young doctor in London to a wartime leader, Bashar's story is a tale of twists, power, and resilience.